What's up, everybody? This is Andrew Fry coming at you from Koh Samui, Thailand. And this is about how to nail an interview, how to secure a job when you have an interview. Some tips and tricks through my many years of experience in conducting interviews as a sales executive, as a business owner, as a hotel manager, and through someone that just figured out how to connect with what the people that are doing the interview want, and how to maximize and build the perception and paint the picture in a positive fashion for them seeing you coming in and doing the job, and ultimately you getting the job. So first and foremost, you got to get the interview, which, that might be one of the hardest parts, because you got a lot of competition out there of people sending their resumes, loads of people applying for jobs even if they don't want the jobs oftentimes. So the biggest thing is, don't be disheartened if you don't get the interview, because the job employers are busy. They're looking at loads of resumes. They don't know you. They can't necessarily they can't necessarily know who you are by a piece of paper. So the hardest thing is probably to get the interview. So with the advice for that, before we go into the actual interview piece, just apply for loads of jobs and create options. Try to get as many interviews as you can for the area that you want to work in. If it's a hotel, apply for loads of hotels, not just one particular hotel that you really want to work for. Apply for that particular hotel or job or business, but apply for some similar ones, because it might take time for that job employer to get back to you anyway. And the other aspect of it all is, depending upon where you are in your career, if you're a younger person, going through an interview process is the only way you get really good at it. Just going through that experience. You have to struggle a little bit when you first started the interview process to learn and to get good at it. So when you do get the interview, obviously the first tip is, you got to know the job and their mission and what they're about. So whatever question they ask you, you want to know the question. Like, if you're applying for a bakery, you want to know how long they've been in business, if you can, their mission, how many bakeries they have, all those kind of things. And this relates to any business. Check out their website, read any reviews that they have, look at pictures they have, just so that you're aware that you know about the business. And pretty much, because job employers are going to want to know and make sure that you're serious about working there, and you aren't just coming in just willy-nilly just because. So they want to know that you're serious, that you took the time to check it out, because that's one of the things that they're evaluating, in the sense of, if you're serious about that you did the research and work to check it out, then that will carry on to how you'll work for them, what kind of work you'll do for them, if you'll be focused and intense and give maximum effort for them. Because ultimately, whatever you say on an interview is only words, and they're hearing a lot of words like that, and they're interviewing multiple people that are trying to get the job. So you have competition out there. So anything that you can do to give yourself a leg up and competitive advantage is what you're trying to do. Ultimately, from when you send the resume in there, from when you go in there and when they do the consideration evaluation process of who they're going to hire, the whole time you're trying to paint the picture of them seeing you working there and doing a good job for what they want. So you got to know what they want and what the job calls for. So look at the business online, check out the website, talk to anyone you can about it, go to the business and just survey it without them kind of knowing that you did that before the interview, just kind of, if that's possible. And know the job description that you're applying for, if that's available online. If it's not, look up similar job descriptions. Because you want to demonstrate that you have the skills that can do the job. You can do the job because X, Y, and Z. And we'll go into X, Y, and Z in a second. But if the job requires for you to be a laborer, you want them to know that you have those skills. If the job requires for you to use mathematics, you want them to know that you can do that in your sleep and that you enjoy that. Because they're gonna want to be confident with your skills and abilities to do the job, but that you'll enjoy the job and that you'll stay long term. That's the other thing. So when you're painting the picture for them that you can do the job, you also want to paint the picture that you're a safe bet. You're going to be loyal. And you can just come right out and say that, but there has to be some substance behind it with your story, and we're going to talk about telling your story in the way to paint the picture for the employer. But if you can accomplish a couple things in building their perception with building confidence that you can do the job, you're the right person for the job, you'll enjoy the job, you'll be passionate about the job, it's right up your alley, and that you're going to be a long-term fixture because of X, Y, and Z. A lot of times in my career, moving to a new place or in that area of the job has benefited me. For the employer knows, okay, this guy wants to move to this area. So, and a lot of times subconsciously, I think that the employer will try to help you, will want to help you if you have a specific goal that involves them and being a long-term fixture and stuff like that. So you can use whatever you have really in a bullet point way along the course of the interview process to build that perception that you want to be there in that area and that hotel. Like they'll ask you oftentimes, like, so why this job? Why this area? And that's the time where you want to be honest and stuff like that. But you want to have an answer. It could be a girlfriend or boyfriend that is in the area, and you want to live closer to her, and you want to get it settled down there and stuff like that. So, and then you go into your career aspirations and everything. That it would be a great opportunity because X, Y, and Z, because every step you've made has led you to where you are today. And this is the perfect job transition because of this. So a lot of times in my career as a hotel manager, I've got the next step up, through not just promotions, but going for an interview for a better position that I would have gotten in a promotion if I waited at my current job. But I got it because I basically built the perception, and it was true that I've done a great job for the hotel company. I've done this and that, and now I want a little bit bigger of a challenge because I'm really good in my role now, and I can handle more, and whatever they've thrown at me, I've done well at. So if because you have to get them to believe in what you're selling, and you're selling yourself, your story. And you have to, again, we keep talking about painting the picture. You have to get them to believe that you're going to come in and do the job that they need you to do. So when I was going from assistant front office manager in a hotel business years ago to front office manager, and I got that position, obviously the first quarrel and concern they'll have is, can you do the job? Can you jump from front office manager before you've never done it? How are you so sure that you can do the job? So a lot of times before they ask the question, I will offer that answer to them in my aspirations and my goals and my thoughts. And you come off as very thoughtful, very intellectual, but you also come off like you know what you're talking about, like you're not here for no reason. That you're here because you're a qualified candidate, and you got to have that confidence in doing so. So the way I always explain stuff like that as I was, going from one step to the other, how am I so sure that I can do it? Like, how can I get to the next level from assistant front office manager to front office manager, or from, assistant director of housekeeping to director of housekeeping or director of operations? How can I make that jump? And I just kind of always explained the things that I've done well and my responsibilities in what I assisted my direct manager with, and how I took on a lot of roles that the front office manager or director of housekeeping or director of operations would normally do, and what initiatives I showed. So people want initiatives. They don't want you to come in there and be lazy and just do the basic bare minimum. So when you're trying to get the job, you're painting the picture that you can do the job, but you're also painting the picture of who you are and what you're going to do and how you're going to be a difference maker, how you're going to make an impact. So for me, I was always trying to make myself impactful at work. If I was the assistant director of housekeeping, I tried to impact the hotel in being the director of earning the role of being the director of the customer service committee. And I didn't take that role for granted. I took that as an opportunity to set myself above the rest of the pack, but also sincerely help the hotel. Like, what can I do outside of my regular job to help the hotel more? There's a quote that I like: do more than you are paid for, and soon you'll be paid for more than you do. And it's true. Every step I've made, it's been about that, and I've carried that mentality with me, and then it's helped me through all the interview processes. So pretty much when I'm answering that question, I'm answering that question with just my story. Tell your story, but tell your story in a way that it builds the perception of, and paints a picture of you working there and doing a great job. And because you've done it, you've done it before, and you could do it again. And you just, you want to carry out, like, what are your intangibles? Like, what do you possess that allows you to be successful? Is it your work ethic? Is it your positive attitude? Is it your passion for the industry, for the job? All those things will help you get them to believe in you, because you can't just say, I'm a great worker and here's why. And you got to have a backup. You got to have, what did you do for the job? How did you do it? And you're trying to sell that this is how you will remain successful. And this is why you think that you'll be a great fit for them. Like, why is it a great fit for you? But why are you a great fit for them? And with all this being said, you don't want to oversell yourself. You want to tell your story. You don't want to shove yourself down their throats in the regard of, like, where you come off conceited or cocky or all about yourself. It's a fine line. So it's when I talk about the stuff that I've done in my career, it's very nonchalant. It's very matter of fact. Like, I helped to improve the customer service scores because I realized that there was a need for looking at the data, for looking at the customer service scores and talking about it with the management team, seeing what we could do to get better. Like, why are we getting lower scores from guests that stay with us on the weekend? Like, what's going on the weekend that we can improve upon? And then talking and thinking about that and bringing a focus and an intensity to those thoughts, but then bringing action to it with execution and leading by example. So if the customer service scores weren't good, I wanted to, of course, like we just talked about, bring it up myself, but in those meetings and bring attention to it. but what can I do personally to help raise the scores? Like, how can I make an impact on the guests so the guests go home and fill out positive surveys? Well, that's what I thought about, and that's what I did. And then it's about teaching the other staff how to do it so it's sustainable and it's not just a one-man show all about me. Because it's a hotel. So ultimately the goal, the mission for a hotel, for all my positions was, offer the guests a great experience. When the guest comes in, show them a great experience. They're paying money to stay here. Put yourself in that mindset. So when they come in, let's show them a great experience. Let's offer them warm hospitality. Let's let them know that, hey, we thank you for staying with us. Let's just not say, here's your room. Hey, my name's Andrew. Whatever you need, let me know. I'll be here all night. Be here at 11 o'clock, Mr. Jones. We're so glad that you're staying with us. I got you a nice room. You're overlooking the city. Got you a city view. You got a balcony over there. So I set you up for success. Hope you and your family can enjoy it. Let me know if you need any advice or suggestions on the area. I know the area very well. So you put a personal touch on it. So you put some heart into the job. And basically, like, just those few things, to be able to touch on all that. You can't hit on every single thing. I did this, and that, and I'm the best, and blah, blah, blah. You just got to tell your story of a couple things that you did that showed initiative, that allowed you to be successful, show and back it up with a couple intangibles that you have. Like, I always talk about my work ethic, my passion, my heart into the job, that I enjoy the job in the industry that I am in, that I like to be around people. Because that's a lot of what the hotel business is about. It's people. If you don't like people, if you don't like the job, it's a terrible job for anyone that's thinking about doing the hotel business. If you don't like people and taking care of people and welcoming people and being nice to people and eating some dirt when people are not that nice, if you don't, if you're able to eat some dirt and not take it personally, it's a great job. I mean, it's not stressful if you're that kind of person. But so whatever kind of job you're in, that's just an example from I've been in the hotel business and management for 15 years. So that's the bulk of my career and success that I've had in there. So that's how I've always been able to jump from one position to a higher position. And whatever that position is, you figure out a way to answer. Because you're there for an interview. You're trying to get the job. So you gotta prove yourself. And if you have some numbers to back it up in a nonchalant way, like I've used that before. Here were the customer service scores before I got there. Through these initiatives, through thinking about it, through bringing attention to it, through trying to be impactful, through teaching and training people on how I succeeded and how I was successful, the score has improved by 50% year over year. And then I just talk about, it takes a positive attitude to do that. We were in a renovation. We still got the job done. I'm not the type of person that wants to settle for just because we got a lot of dust and construction and noise going on in the hotel and we're getting some complaints and that's affecting us on the surveys, our scores. I didn't want that to, I didn't want to accept that we couldn't get good scores for that. And that's been true throughout my whole entire career, that I would always coach the team and advise the team, guys, listen, we're going to have a tough time in going through the renovation. There's going to be a lot of complaints, noise, challenges. We don't have our best rooms available. But the good news is we're going to have a renovated product. We're going to have a great product. So we just got to get through it. We'll do it as a team. And let's make the best of it. But let's still get good scores. So what else? And then brainstorm as a team. You build the team up to let them know, what can we do as a team? And, that's resulted in us before coming up with different initiatives, doing things like handing out water bottles when guests check out in the morning, just to provide a little extra oomph, a little extra hope that the guests will forgive us for X, Y, and Z if we put a little bit of, if we do a couple little nice things for the guests. and their families, or put an amenity in their room with a personal note card, stuff like that. So the things I've done, the initiatives I've shown, I've brought to the table. But there's loads of initiatives like that I've done. So you don't use everything at once. You don't use your full arsenal. You use a couple bullet points in the flow of the conversation. That's going to help you. What I would recommend is making a bullet point list of the rhythm and flow for how you want to tell your story. Make a list of, like we talked about, the intangibles that you bring, what you've accomplished, why you're the right person for the job, why you want that job, why it's a good fit for you, ultimately. So, and then you correlate everything in with painting the picture for them. Everything that you do is about painting the picture for them of you working there and coming in there. They need to see you. They need to visualize you coming in, because they're hiring you over the other competition. They're putting their name on you. And a lot of times you go through many different interviews to get one job. Sometimes as many as 6 or 7, at least in a couple of my positions. And it's just one step at a time. Be excited about the interview process and understand that they're grading you and they're evaluating everything. When you first walk in the door, it all starts from when you send the resume, when you send the email, to when you walk in the door, to when you leave the door, to when you send the follow-up email, which we'll talk about in 1 second, the thank you email for the opportunity to interview. You want to always demonstrate and show appreciation for every step of the interview process. Thank you so much for setting up the interview. I look forward to meeting with you. Very excited. I think it'll be a great fit. You can throw a couple of those things in there. And then when you do get the interview, look good, obviously. Some of the things, we think are common sense sometimes, but dress to impress, but know the job. Don't overdo it. Don't wear a tuxedo or something crazy. Don't wear a suit if it's a job to, if it's one of your first jobs and you're 16 years old. And although that will set you apart from the rest. I mean, I almost all the time I've worn a full suit, or at least a shirt and tie, regardless of what job it was. I mean, when I was interviewing for a busboy, I've done that. So people are different in that regard. I don't think it's required if you interview for, a job that requires you to wait tables per se, but it can't hurt. So, but when you come in for the interview, obviously you want to give a good handshake. You want to look sharp. You want to have a couple copies of your resume. I would carry a portfolio that has a couple copies of your resume, maybe 6 or 7 copies, because you'll want one to look at just in case. And know your resume. Know every detail of your resume. You don't want to get caught up in looking and misremembering the dates or job responsibilities or locations or from one job to the other, which sounds silly, but when you've had a lot of jobs and you've moved around a lot, and you got to know your resume like the back of your hand. But when you first come in the door and you meet the person, hey, Tony, thank you so much for meeting with me. How are you? How's your day going? Right? So whenever I am walking with someone on the interview, I always ask them how their day is going to kind of build dead air and kind of, relax the situation a little bit. After, this is after he says or she says, come on with me, we're going to go in this room. I'll say like, okay, great, thank you so much. And then we'll walk a couple steps, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, and I'll say, so how's your day going here at the hotel? And then they'll say something like, oh, it's so busy. We got a big group coming in. You know how it is on the weekends. Everybody comes in by the beach. And then, and I'll just say like, oh, well, that's exciting. And you just kind of make a little conversation before you go into sitting down and for the actual interview. But any question they ask you, you want to also exude a positive attitude. If they ask you, did you find the place okay? Was there traffic? You never want to say, oh, I got lost. Oh, I couldn't find it. Oh, there was traffic. You never want to demonstrate that, because they're looking for, they don't want to hear you complain, and they're not going to want to hear you complain when you start working there, even if you are that type of way. Sometimes you got to fake it before you make it. So for me, I've never minded the traffic, or if I got lost, or if I didn't find it right away. So I just always say, yeah, it was fine. It only took me a little bit. I just went. It took me about 15 minutes. It was great. And then they'll say, okay, great. And that's all it needs to say. You don't want to say, you just don't want to go down that path where they can have the perception of, this guy, okay, so he's got a bad attitude because there's traffic. You don't want that. You want the opposite of that. You want them to see you as rock solid in every aspect. So, in any case, those are just a couple tips of painting the picture and building the perception and telling your story. And there's more to come. There's more, obviously, with this. This is just an introduction to a couple things and how you want to go about it. But after the interview, if you have a business card, it's nice to give them a business card. You always want to offer a copy of your resume before that, obviously, like when you first start the interview process. But after the interview, you want to, of course, demonstrate appreciation the whole way through, like we said, like from sending the email about thank you for the opportunity to interview, I'm excited to meet you, to going out, oh, nice to meet you. You want to show enthusiasm for the actual process and patience as well. And you want to end the interview with a handshake after you exchange the business cards. Something I always try to do before the end of the interview too is I'll try to say, well, right as I know the interview's wrapping up, well, Tony, I feel great about this. It was really nice to hear about the job, because they'll say something like, do you have any more questions? And as they do that, I'm not going to say no. That's the opportunity when you go into it and say, well, you've been very thorough, so I appreciate it. I think I have a full understanding of what you want and what you need and the job and what it requires for. And I think I've done that in my career, and I think that this is the perfect fit and transition for me, to come in here. And I think it's the right timing. So I think it's just a really good situation for us both if you were to hire me. Because, and that comment, if you were to hire me, is key, because you don't want to overdo it, because you still want them to feel in control. You may be the best candidate in the world, but ultimately people have egos, and you want them to still feel, sometimes people are excited to be in that position, and they may take a particular interest in a particular candidate. And it could be for a multitude of reasons. It could be personal. You can't forget that sometimes people are going to do what they're going to do, regardless of how qualified you are or how great you are. So I always try to keep them in that power position. But when I'm answering the question like that, like, do you have any questions? And when I'm closing the interview out like that, I show a sense of command, a sense of I know what's going on, I know what's important, I appreciate our whole conversation, I have a full understanding of the job, I can do the job. You're reiterating the perception that you built. You're ensuring that you built the perception that you wanted to build. That when they leave, the perception of you is this guy or gal can do the job. They can come in here because of X, Y, and Z. Because you told your story. You didn't overdo it, but you told your story in a way that painted the picture for them to see you in that job and succeeding at that job. Obviously, if it's a job that you're not qualified or can't do, that's a different story. However, you can still go for it. A couple times in my career, I've got jobs when I was younger that I wasn't quite ready for, but they didn't necessarily know that. They didn't really know that. I mean, maybe they knew they were taking a chance on me, but I still secured the position, and then I figured it out. So sometimes, even if you're not qualified for the position, just get the job, figure it out. And even if you don't know if you want to do the job, get the job and figure out the job and figure out if you want to do it. Because when you get the job, you have the option. If you're considering leaving your job or an industry or changing industry, you can't leave to do a different job yet until you get the job, unless you want to be without a job for a little bit. But when you get the other job, then it's like, all right, I got the job. Do I want to do the job? And what are the pros and cons in leaving my current job or going to do this job? But you have that option, which is a beautiful thing if you get the job. So just get the job. And then another thing that you can do when they're asking you a question, a way to know if you may get the job or not, or how they're thinking, is to say to them, well, Tony, again, thanks for the opportunity. Is there any questions or concerns you have as to my qualifications or my candidacy for the job? And when should I expect to hear from you? I'm just excited about the process, so I'm just wondering. So just like the way I said that and the tone, you don't have to say that verbatim or exactly in that fashion, but you want to say it in a way that the perception is that you're not too aggressive. You're assertive. You're assertive in the aspect of they're going to perceive that question as this guy or gal is serious. They want to know. They're interested. They want to know the timetable. They're a viable candidate. And then the way they answer that question will allow you to overturn any objections as a last-ditch effort to explain yourself or to reiterate the perception that you're trying to build of yourself. But they may say, well, no, Andrew, I think it's great. I think you could come in and do the job. We're just going to interview a couple more people, a couple internal candidates, and we're going to go from there. We're going to decide within the next couple of days, but it was really nice to meet you and chat with you. Usually you'll get that type of answer if it's all good, if you are going to get the job or not. But if it's not good, they'll say something like, well, I got to be honest, I'm a little worried about your availability. We do need someone that works nights. So in my past, when I was 16, 17, when I was trying to get a restaurant server, bus job, host job, all those kind of things, my availability used to be wacky because of my sports schedule and stuff like that. And that came into play. And then, that was the time where I was able to overturn those little objections, because I was able to say, well, basketball's, just for a couple months, so I understand that it would be a little inconvenient that I can't work on Wednesday and Thursday nights because I have games, and then on Friday and Saturday in the day I practice. But I work every Friday and Saturday night, no problems. I never need off a Friday or Saturday night. I won't have any problem with the schedule. All I need is for you to work around those blocks, and I'll appreciate it. I'll do a great job. And after a few months, when the summer comes around, my schedule normalizes. I'm not in school. I'm not, I don't have basketball those particular days. And I say, but yeah, I completely understand, and I appreciate that, but I assure you that I will be a dependable, reliable, associate for you, and I'll do a tremendous job, and I'll put my heart into it. It's just a couple days that I have restrictions with basketball. So, and after the interview process, make sure you get their email, their name. Don't forget that. Make sure you know who you interviewed with each step of the way. It's easy to forget sometimes when you're interviewing with a lot of people or when you're a younger person. And then send an email, a thank you email, because not everyone does that. And that's gonna set you apart from some of the other candidates. It's gonna give you an edge. You're looking to create an edge every sense of the way. How can you be in this person's mind through the whole interview process? How can they be thinking about interviewing you? Interviewing you and hiring you. How can you continually build that perception from them visualizing you in the door to them saying, we want to hire you, to them telling you what day to come in and start the training and giving you an opportunity and career step with them. So that's the whole goal about everything. And enjoy the process. It's the more you go through it, the more you will gain experiences and get better at it. I've done it a lot in my career because I've done it as a senior manager, but I've obtained some positions that in my career that I probably super earned because of a couple of these areas of focus, of thought, of sincere. But just tell my story. Just being honest. Just be honest with your story, but use your story in a strategic way. Use your story in a strategic way that builds the perception of you doing that job and then visualizing you doing that job. I know we said that a couple times, but that's ultimately what it comes down to. So, and make sure you do your homework every step of the way. Don't be afraid to go for it in general. Just go for it. Just go get the job. Before the interview, don't be nervous. Take a couple deep breaths before you go in for the interview. You know, visualize yourself doing the job, but just be confident. Know your story, know your resume, know the company, know the mission, know the job description, know why you would be a good fit there. Have a game plan. Have a script, have a rhythm in your head. Don't be a robot. Do it in a natural way, but know your script with how you want to flow the rhythm. Be able to answer questions through having all these bullet points. And again, make that bullet point list for yourself and study that before you go into it about your story and about the job and why you'll be good at the job and why you'll be a good fit before you go into it. So with all that being said, you know, shoot me a comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to put out a lot of these videos like this to help people. Positive attitude, interview tips, career tips, also some other travel things. And yeah, subscribe, hit like, hit comment, share this video, please. And thank you. Have a good day. Best of luck on your interview. Yeah.